I was recently speaking to a successful entrepreneur who was telling me how his wife really doesn't feel like he's listening to her. He's doing whatever he can to listen, and he is really, 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 really trying to listen. He feels like he's putting everything in to listen, and there's just some sort of like disconnect. And after a little bit more of discussion with him, what we've come to realize is not that he's not listening. It's that as soon as she goes on to the next topic, his brain forgets, not even next topic, the next thought. His brain forgets the previous thought that she just said. So she is referring back to a previous thought, and he like forgot about it completely. Like, I don't remember saying that. So it sounds like he's not listening because I literally just told this to you 10 seconds ago and you forgot about it, right? But it wasn't that he's not listening, it's that his brain can't hold two pieces of information at the same time. That is one of the 28 cognitive functions, one of the 28 thinking skills. And his brain really, really, really struggles with it. Now, it doesn't have to stay that way, okay? Your brain can hold multiple pieces of information. Most people, 5 is very average, 6 or 7 is also common. So you can and you need, in order to be able to not get frustrated and be able to work efficiently, you need to hold multiple pieces of information at the same time. Like, I am sure this is not just showing up with his wife. I am sure he is having this frustration every single time he has to like send an email to a client with like multiple pieces of information in, and he has to like keep on going back because he forgot that. He has to double check to make sure it's everything. And if it's not written down, then it is not going to be remembered because he can't hold two pieces of information at the same time. Or even if he's like on the phone with a client or like on a Zoom or something, and like the client's telling him something, he has to take every single piece of notes because he's going to forget something if he didn't say it, right? Like, I don't know what it's like when he speaks to in person because he deals a lot with clients and people also. So like if he's writing notes or he's remembering, or they're just also thinking that he's not listening to them because he literally said it, because as soon as they go on to the next thought, he forgets the previous thought, right? And unfortunately, or this is super, super common, but fortunately, you can improve it. Okay. So what is holding two pieces of information at the same time? It's literally just that. It's holding two pieces of information or more in your brain at the same time. It's not doing two pieces, it's holding two pieces, right? So if you go tell your child to brush their teeth and brush their hair, you don't want them doing both at the same time. You want them to remember both and then to do one after the other. So that is the same thing. You want your brain to be able to hold two or more pieces of information at the same time. Now, honestly, we start developing this from a really young age, like 2, even younger sometimes, of holding this multiple piece of information, right? Like, go hang up your coat and go wash your hands. That's something that we might tell 2-year-olds. And as adults, we might have many, many more that we have to remember. We can't just like be writing every single thing down, right? Like, we need to be able to hold multiple pieces of information, especially when we're analyzing, making decisions, doing all the things that we have to do in business. So I am going to share with you how you can start improving this cognitive function right now. And then I'm going to share with you like the second part to this story, part like a meta version of this story. Okay. So here's what you're going to do. You are literally going to give yourself 2 things to do at the same time without writing it down. And don't do this at a time where it's like really important, like information from a customer or something like that, but try to do it at a time where it's safe. Like, nothing will happen if you mess up, right? So let's say you come home from the grocery store and you tell yourself, I am going to unload the grocery stores and put up supper. That you're telling yourself 2 things to do. You're not doing them both at the same time. You're telling yourself to do 2 things, right? Or let's say you are going to send out this email to this client and record this TikTok. Tell yourself 2 things to do. Once you feel like you're getting really good at that, and tell yourself 3 things to do. I'm going to send out this email to a client, I'm going to record a TikTok, and then I am going to respond to Boxer to this other client, whatever, right? And once you're good at that, 4 or 5 build up, right? Like, as you get better. 5 is you'll be able to do many more things. You'll really, really start seeing it like life just like be easier once you start hitting 4 or 5. If you could work on it and get to 6 and 7, it's like, woo, another level of really, really remembering a lot of information. And it really, really saves a lot of time and frustration and aggravation, because like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to write everything down. Another way you could practice this is if, let's say, like, you're going to a grocery store just for like 3 things. So like, you remind yourself like those 3 things. I'm going to the store for those 2 things. Don't write it down. Just like, these are 3 things that you have to remember. Okay, another thing that you can do to really get better at this is to play games that require you to hold multiple pieces of information at the same time, like chocolate fix or cat crimes. Like cat crimes is a really good game because it's like you have to figure out which cat did the crime, and there's like multiple clues and you have to like put them together. But a lot of the clues are depending on other cues. So in order for you to figure it out, you have to hold multiple of those clues in your brain at the same time, right? Good. Now, you're going to start working on that. And I'm going to just end off by telling you the second part to the story. So I've shared this story in written version, much shorter of it, on LinkedIn. And I had a therapist message me who was like, you can't just water it down to cognitive functions, because maybe he has adult ADHD, and he gives me this like whole ramble on like why it's maybe ADHD. Now he's being really nice and he like said all the good things, like nothing wrong. But I don't want you to be thinking that same thing. Okay. Because maybe he has ADHD. Possibly. I'm not telling him not to get it checked out. But I don't think in this situation, it is super helpful to just tell someone they have ADHD, or actually in many areas of life, like when they come to you and you say, sorry, dude, you just have ADHD. This is the way it is always going to be. Your wife has to understand that you are going to forget things, and that's it. I don't believe that. I do think that the wife has to be understanding that this husband has this weak cognitive function. And if he has ADHD most definitely has to be understanding that he has ADHD and be able to work together with it. But just because your brain is the way it is today, it doesn't have to stay forever. So just because right now he is struggling with holding two pieces of information at once, or just because right now her husband, this lady's husband, is not making her feel very well listened to and understood, it doesn't mean it has to stay like that forever. You want to work together with your brain, not against it, but at the same time, you want to push it to another level because it is capable of way more than you realize. When you just say it's ADHD, then what happens is you start building systems and hacks around your weaknesses and staying in your weaknesses by just providing some sort of way for you to be able to deal with your weakness, which is okay for the short run. But that means your whole life, any single time you have to deal with this weakness, you have to deal with creating some sort of system or hack or whatever around this weakness in order for you to be able to function. What you really want to do is solve the real problem. Like, why is he struggling to understand or connect with his wife in this way? Because of this cognitive function. There are ways for him to be able to improve this cognitive function, even if he has ADHD. Same exercise I gave you, he can do. He's working on them. I know, and he's even told me already that it is getting better, right? So if I would have just told him, sorry, dude, you have ADHD, he wouldn't feel very good about it. Now he is actually improving the reason as to why it is a struggle for him, so that way it is no longer a struggle. And like we said earlier, not only is it helping with his wife and his relationship with his wife, I am sure it is also helping him in his business and other areas of life when he has to do things for himself, because he's actually solving the real problem. True, it takes work, and true, in the meanwhile, his wife needs to be understanding and he needs to create these tips or hacks around him so that way he can function. But it doesn't have to stay like that forever. So I am sharing that with you to give you hope that even if you have ADHD or some sort of other diagnosis, you can improve your cognitive functions. Whether you've been given a label or not in your life, it doesn't really matter. You can improve your 28 cognitive functions. So if you want to know where you're at with each one of the 20 cognitive functions, right below there is a free assessment for you to take. Grab the assessment and then you can see right away which ones you need to improve. Have an awesome rest of your day, and cheers to peak brain performance.